After years of robust growth, there are signals of fatigue in the energy drink space as consumers cut down on spending and make fewer trips to convenience stores. But so far, Celsius has avoided the worst of it. The country's number three energy drink has defied a sluggish market by leveraging two of the fastest growing trends in food and beverage: health and wellness and flavor innovation. Kyle Watson, Chief Marketing Officer, joins us to talk about how Celsius has developed into a fast growing and resilient brand this week on the Marketer's Brief, our weekly discussion of marketing news and trends that have the industry buzzing. Where competitors have backgrounds in action sports and bars, Watson discusses how Celsius grew up in gyms and has leveraged that association with fitness. We'll also discuss how the brand is capitalizing on its momentum, targeting Generation Z and college campuses. I'm John Springer, senior reporter at Ad Age, and this is the Marketer's Brief podcast. Kyle Watson, welcome to the Marketer's Brief podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here. And thanks for having me, John.
We're glad you're here. I wonder if you could start by telling us a little bit about yourself. What inspired you to sort of pursue the career you have?
So honestly, my dad, he was in advertising and, I kind of always looked up to him as a kid and aspired to be like him. So he would bring me to work and have me sit in on him with some of his brainstorms. So I really kind of related to the creativity that I saw in a lot of the campaigns that he was working on. So that was something that I think I really was interested in and pursued in college. And then really in my career, I kind of went through a lot of different sides of marketing, from everything from retail to sports. And I truly fell in love with the CPG category and really just beverage specifically.
Great. I know you spent some time, I think, with the Florida Panthers, right? In sports?
I did. So ironically, one of my first jobs, and I was managing a lot of different sponsorship accounts for the team at the time, the team and the venue. And ironically, I also had Celsius as one of the accounts. So it was way back in the day, really how I first learned about Celsius, but very different place that the brand was in back then. But full circle, they won the Stanley Cup this year, and we actually sponsor the Florida Panthers. So kind of a fun little story.
Right. So let's talk a bit about the energy segment. It's been a little sluggish recently after several years of pretty impressive growth. I wonder if you can talk in kind of general terms what's been behind that and how, if at all, that's affected what you're doing in marketing for Celsius.
Well, I think there's a lot of different things that play into that. And I think that a little bit noisy. We're all looking at it and watching it constantly, trying to understand what's really driving it. And, I think there is obviously a lot of things that consumers are cutting back on. Energy has been very strong and the categories remain strong. I think people look at a lot of times more of their, habits and things that are kind of rituals for them. It's something that they're not as willing to part with. But we haven't seen it where we've been extremely worried about it. I think we're still on a very good trajectory. I think the great thing is that the category is going in the direction that our brand's really moving in, and you're seeing a lot of sugar-free being, driving the category and better for you. And I think the other piece of it is that we're building a brand. I think looking at it in a way where we're not just a beverage and we're not just a function. We're really a brand that resonates with people in a different way. So we continue to try to build this emotional connection to our brand so that we don't, people aren't looking at it as just something they're going out and purchasing. Essentially any energy drink could replicate the same ingredients, the same flavor profile, similar design on pack. I think what's important to really drive this category and especially drive a brand is a lot more than just the product. And that's really what we're looking to do with our brand.
Yeah. So Celsius it came out of the health club channel. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. So basically, our brand did it very differently than a lot of other brands. And I think timing was so critical. We were way ahead of our time in a way where traditional energy at the time was really more of the players that we all know that grew up more so in the, on-premise scenario. So a lot of times mixed with alcohol, but also in convenience and really kind of positioned around extreme sports and very male driven. But our beverage really was playing in a completely different space when it was first founded. It was based on a proprietary blend highlighting essential vitamins. And this, at the time, it was more based on, these body fat burning and metabolism. And, that was something that at the time, again, was very outside of what the category was. And it really wasn't even intended to be playing in the energy category. It was more so like a fitness beverage. And it started in vitamin specialty and in gyms. And it was really in almost every gym. And in going that route, really established our brand as a better for you option. And it allowed this entrance into the category when the category was moving in that direction, when people really started to care more about what they were putting in their bodies and really wanted to embrace like the live fit lifestyle, which our brand has always been attached to. And I think they really saw it as this better for you version of energy. And it brought a lot of new consumers into the category, whether it's females or, people that were aging out of the category. So I think it's really interesting timing, and our brand really benefited from our route to market in that sense.
Would you say the brand is evolved since then?
Absolutely. Looking back to, even when I mentioned I had Celsius as a sponsor at the Florida Panthers, you could just take a look at the packaging and see a lot of the evolution in that in general. So before I even got to the brand almost 6 years ago, the brand kind of evolved from this a little bit more busy packaging that highlighted a lot of these added benefits and talking more about this fat loss and negative calorie burning into this more premium, very beautiful 12-ounce, refreshing, fruit forward, really kind of more of a lifestyle from a look and a feel, but also just from how the brand was positioned and really always embracing our live fit core and talking about how, fitness has become more of a lifestyle for people. So I think that evolution has been encompassed by, our brand went from very niche, and then with the evolution of consumers' preferences and buying habits and mindset in general, we became much more relevant, and we had a much bigger opportunity to play in the category as the category really was evolving. And we were there for that evolution of it. And I think just being sugar free from the beginning was big. A lot of the traditional energy was still full sugar, and we entered the category with zero sugar and a lot of the better for you attributes that we have in our product.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the recent campaigns. I know you did a thing just very recently on introducing 6 NIL athletes from college football. What if you could talk about a little bit about sort of the overarching message that's delivering and your strategy with that?
Yeah, I think just by nature of it, in us striving to continue to speak to the health and wellness trends and this live fit lifestyle, we align with people who encompass that in everything they do. So that really comes down to whether it's athletes, whether it's people that are more focused on fitness, so trainers, people that are just everyday fit, just out there, they're not necessarily in the gym, but they're out there riding their bikes, running, surfing, skateboarding. I think we embrace that across all different types of fitness. And one of those is definitely athletes. So one thing we did do in line with our Celsius University program and campaign is really embracing some NIL players. And we have been participating in that program for now our Celsius Youth since 2022 officially. And now we're up to about 200 student ambassadors across about 76 campuses. And that really aligns well with us embracing these brand partners that are collegiate football players and the best at what they do. So we did launch our roster of our essential 6 players, and that'll be a full campaign around everything from game day energy, doing some like live pop-up events around campus, and also really integrating our athletes into the creative. So it's everything from TV commercials, social content, really robust campaign around that really encapsulates what we're doing on campus and with our Celsius University program.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that Celsius U. I mean, I know you just did, but hear a little bit more about that strategy and why it's important to be on campus.
Yeah, so I think really the energy category, we look at when you enter into the energy category as a consumer, and we only try to appeal to 18 and over. So our goal is really to look at when you get to be that 18 plus and going into college, where that collegiate student is really looking for added energy because college life is so demanding from, academics and balancing it with whatever sports they have, whatever extracurricular jobs really to get themselves through college. So I think that's where this energy usage occasion comes into play within their life stage. And that's where we really want to make sure that we're capturing them and appealing to them emotionally and just really having them attached to our brand in that moment. And I think we do that by being where they live, work, and play on campus, and also being motivational and aspiring for them. And I think part of that is, when we sponsor these athletes and we work with these athletes, it gives them something to really look up to and aspire to. And I think it's also being everywhere on campus. We're at local gyms on campus. We're at the local libraries in their study moments. We're making sure that we're showing up and surprising, delighting them at their, where they live in student housing. But at all different moments, I think it's really important just to really embrace what they're doing in their everyday, and also that they're living fit in everything they do, because there's so much more to living fit than just going to the gym. It's really about, living fit in your, balancing your school and your academics with the fun side of your life, and making sure there is that balance.
So, what other age groups are you marketing to?
So I would say one amazing thing about our brand is that we have a very, very diverse demographic, and we do appeal to, several generations. So we are, absolutely appealing to millennial. So I actually sometimes just combine Gen Z and millennial and or Gen Zennials. And then we for sure are appealing to Gen X. And we're like I mentioned before, we are reaching this consumer that's kind of aging out of energy. So you can imagine yourself kind of in this career when you're like entering into your like late 30s, early 40s, and you're walking into like a boardroom and you're carrying, something you want to be drinking to get energy. I think it's easier to embrace holding this beautiful 12-ounce sleek can with a beautiful depiction of fruit on it. It seems a little bit more sophisticated, maybe more in line with that stage of your life than some of the other more traditional energies. So I think that's something where we see people really wanting this better for you option as they grow out of that earlier stage in their energy consumption cycle, if you will. So I think that we have a very versatile appeal when it comes to age group.
Great. So let's talk for a bit about sort of the effective channels for reaching and engaging your target audience. So I imagine you're using quite a bit given the demographics you just talked about.
Yes, there is definitely a much larger range. And as we continue to grow and drive a more diverse audience that's constantly evolving, it's evolving with, the trends that we're seeing. So one is definitely social media. I think, people are glued to their phones, and almost kind of in a depressing way, people are glued to their phones. Sometimes they're not even looking up for them to appreciate what's going on around them. But that's incredibly important, is to really be making sure our brand is being radiated across all the different communities on social media. And I think the biggest piece of that is making sure that that communication and radiation across social media is done in an authentic way. And that's done through everything from our brand ambassador program, which are our like brand advocates that we don't pay, we send product. And we have close to 3,000 of those that just love our brand, and they're out there promoting our brand, talking about our brand, posting about our brand. And then there's also, our brand partners, which are a little bit more robust partners that we have that are out there doing that same thing. And I think the more authentic the relationships we have with anybody that we work with across social media is really, it drives the messaging of the brand in a way that is very relatable to their audiences. And that's key, I think, because really when you have people talking about your brand and talking about how they use it and talking about why it's meaningful and important in their lives, it has to come from a place of authenticity. If not, you're just giving people scripts to talk about something. So social media for us, but doing it in our way, is very important. And then, I mean, additionally, there's obviously more traditional media, and that's something we haven't done as much of until recently. With some of our campaigns around, example with our Olympic athletes and roster, and with our NIL Essential Six, I think sometimes it really is a great place to be able to have a little bit of a wider audience to showcase that, especially around the vertical of what we're marketing around when it comes to football, or specifically college football games, and same with Olympics. But the other piece of, another big avenue for us is really like in-person marketing, and just making sure we're creating that touch point with the brand. So liquid to lips always, whether it's our field teams getting cans in hands, or it's, us sponsoring different events across the country. We have our Live Fit tour that's doing all different types of marathons and fitness events. And then we have our Essential Vibes tour out there across the country at different festivals. So I think it's really important to have that in-person moment to create that connection, that more emotional connection with the consumer, and with that touch point with your product.
Kyle, I wonder if you could discuss recent partnerships that have been successful for you. I know there's the Formula One that you've got with, and I want to say Charles Leclerc. Am I correct?
Yes, you are. We just announced that. So great timing. Also great timing because he just won. So that was a really amazing moment for our brand, and a lot of excitement around that. But we have been, it's now our second year as a sponsor Ferrari, and we've really embraced Formula One and Ferrari as one of our big bets, and just something we've seen as, there's been such tremendous growth around Formula One, especially with the Netflix series. And it's something that also allows us to kind of integrate it into our global expansion as well. But it 100%, you see a lot of Gen Z being, brought into this sport. You see a ton of females now even being brought into this sport. And I think it's just one of the fastest growing sports. And it's kind of this cultural moment that's happening. So I think that's really why we decided to play in this space. And Charles Leclerc is an amazing brand partner to work with. I mean, he was so supportive of our brand. The minute we started working with him, going out with being with Ferrari, he was already drinking Celsius. He was already asking for a fridge in his apartment. So it's so great to see somebody who genuinely loves our brand, and he's so down to earth and he's so relatable. So we're beyond excited for the partnership with him as well as the continued partnership with Ferrari.
Right. And you've got the budget, obviously, to get these kinds of partnerships off the ground. You're still sort of up against it, I think, with some larger competitors as far as what they're able to sort of spend. I wonder if you can kind of talk about that from that challenge.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we've always been very scrappy. So obviously, as we continue to grow the brand, we have more opportunities from a budget standpoint, but we 100% remain very scrappy. And one thing I always talk about is using your product as currency. So we negotiate a lot with just the value of our product and sometimes the value of our brand. So a lot of times when we look at other partnerships outside of something big like Ferrari, I mean, we are able to use the kind of, the followers that we have on our social and some of the influencers and brand partners that we have. Like, we bring brand partners out to events. We bring, that social media reach out with that as well. So I think it's something that we've learned to do really well, is to kind of make sure everybody in this organization understands the value of our brand and what it brings to the table in any partnership. So we remain very scrappy, and we really can't compete with some of the money that our competitors are spending. But at the same time, like, we've always we joke around internally that we backdoor everything. And, a lot of times you start off backdooring things and eventually you feel like you're going through the front door. And I think in some of those cases, that's what we're doing now. But it's been fun to see that journey and to kind of build it to where we're able to do more of those things. But I still say always stay scrappy and use your brand or your product or your service as currency wherever you can.
Okay. Any other challenges that sort of come to mind in your day-to-day activity?
I mean, there's always challenges. I think, just navigating what is happening with, it's a very competitive category. I think that's one of the things that it's really like the energy drink category is notoriously known as this cutthroat category. And, consumers are very finicky. And a lot of times, you're only as good as your last innovation, and innovation is driving so much of the category. So one of the, I guess, opportunities, and maybe the most exciting opportunity, is always staying on top of consumer trends, whether it's flavor trends or cultural moments and trends, because if you're not part of them, you miss out on a lot, and another brand will come and steal that cultural moment right from under you and steal the hearts and minds of your consumers. So I think you have to make sure that you have a team that really has like a finger on the pulse of everything going on, and even down to by market. Like, we need to be there, or we're going to miss out on our momentum opportunities. So that's something I think that is a massive opportunity, is just making sure we're culturally relevant and also just on top of our innovation and always coming out with creative new flavors that are hitting on the trends, so that another brand's not beating you with some amazing innovation that's going to blow you out of the water with the energy consumer.
Yeah. How do you see the category evolving in years ahead?
I think the trajectory of really this better for you, still continuing to go towards this zero sugar, I think there's going to be a lot more growth within added functionality outside of just energy. I think you're even starting to see that, with some brands that launched recently that were not originally in energy that then added energy plus another function. I do think it'll continue to go that direction. And there's so many trends in the health and wellness space, and some of them may be short-lived, some of them may have a lot of lasting power. I think the other piece that is going to drive a lot of momentum is just that you have a generation with Gen Z and a lot of millennials that are actually kind of experimenting in the sober curious side and drinking less alcohol. And I think that just allows for this moment for any beverage that isn't alcohol to really drive more usage occasions and more relevance in their everyday lives, like I said, where we live, work, and play. And one example of that is, like, we've seen at music festivals where consumers they're drinking less alcohol. Some may be drinking no alcohol, and a lot are drinking less alcohol. Some are drinking the same, but at the same time, they want something to drink at a festival and refresh them. And we have these really fruit forward, refreshing, great tasting beverages that really have benefited from that shift in not just constantly drinking alcohol at the concessions at a festival. And that's where, one of the reasons why we've really embraced our Essential Vibes store and this opportunity at festival. So I think that that's definitely going to drive some momentum in the category, but I think the functionality and, continued health and wellness trajectory is going to continue as well.
Yeah, that's a good bet. It's like unstoppable, right?
Yes.
Better for you and functionality and beverage. So, last question. Any brands other than your own that you would say that you admire or learn from out there in the world?
Oh, absolutely. I'm such a brand geek, but I will say I love what Poppy's doing. I think they're doing an incredible job. I think the other piece of it is that it's not just about how they market the brand and how relevant they are across social and influencer and innovation, but they really have an amazing tasting product. So I definitely look to them from a CPG standpoint as just amazing. I think Aloe is doing an incredible job on the side of just almost kind of in Lululemon's footprint, basically like doing this entire, they're not only a fitness brand, but they've kind of expanded outside of that and they become such a lifestyle brand, but plus really great quality product. I think that's so important. I could go on and on about brands, but definitely those are two on my list.
Okay. Well, Kyle Watson, we loved hearing about them, and I want to thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much, John. It was great speaking with you.
That was Kyle Watson, Chief Marketing Officer of Celsius, and I'm John Springer, Senior Reporter at Ad Age. I'd like to thank our producer, Lauren Ciardio, and remind you that you can subscribe to The Marketer's Brief wherever you get podcasts. That's all for this week. We'll see you next time.
Marketer's Brief listeners get $40 off an adage.com subscription. Sharpen your marketing edge and visit adage.com/brief for your discount.